Candido Rondon.
Once there were many places in the world that had never been explored. They were simply blank spaces on the maps. The hearts of Africa and Asia, the icy continent of Antarctica, the wide areas of the ocean. No one knew what was there. Explorers, driven by curiosity and a thirst for knowledge, headed out to see what they could discover. Sometimes they came back with treasures. Other times they came back with news of unknown rivers and mountains. Sometimes they didn't ever come back. Candido Rondon wondered what lay in the depths of the Amazon jungle. There had always been rumors of lost cities and strange civilizations. Rondon wanted to find out. Rondon was born in the state of Mato Grosso in central Brazil in 1865. Mato Grosso means Great Woods. European gold seekers settled the area in the 18th century, but it remained undeveloped because it was so isolated and far from the ocean. The area contains some highlands and plains. These are often hot and dry. Other parts are lower and are hot and humid, perfect for rainforest and jungle. To the north of Mato Grosso lies the vast Amazon rainforest. At the time Rondon was born, it was unexplored. It was just a blank space on the map. One thing was certain: there were vast rivers and endless jungles in that blank space. But were there people? And were there cities? As a young man, Rondon joined the Army and then later the Telegraph Commission. This commission was building telegraph lines into Brazil's interior. Telegraphs were an old method of communicating signals across long distances. The telegraphs sent a signal along a wire. The signal was then decoded at the far end. As part of this job, Rondon ventured into the rainforest. He and his companions journeyed deep into unmapped areas over many years. This was often difficult work, especially when Rondon had to build telegraphs through the thick jungles. During this time, Rondon studied the wonderful plants and animals of the rainforest. He was in awe of the sights he saw. All in all, the rainforest is one of the most wonderful environments in the world. It is filled with life. Birds cackle in the trees. Monkeys swing from branch to branch. Big cats wait silently for their prey. These all fascinated Rondon, and he studied them as he worked. There are many colorful and strange birds that live in the Amazon. It is also home to jaguars, red deer, and many species of monkeys. There is also a wide variety of trees and bushes. Of course, it was very dangerous work. Poisonous snakes, insects, and all kinds of other deadly dangers faced Rondon and his team. Even a small cut might become dangerously infected. Rondon became a brilliant leader during these times and did a lot to ensure the safety of those around him. In addition, he kept up the team's spirit. Rondon also came into contact with many of the tribes of forest Indians. There were many different groups of natives. Many of them spoke different languages. They often had very different cultures. Most of them were hunter-gatherer societies. They spent their time hunting, fishing, and gathering wild plant foods. Some had basic farming methods too. A lot of them lived near the rivers, which allowed access to water and fish. Rondon studied the different customs of the tribes. Some of them had elaborate initiation rituals. Others had complex social structures. Many of them believed in magic. Much of their knowledge was related to the plants and animals in their immediate environment. Rondon was horrified at the new settlers' abuse of the native people. He saw how the outsiders took advantage of the indigenous people's naivete of money, goods, and services. Many of the native cultures began to crumble because their simpler societies couldn't adapt to such complex Western influence. And sometimes the tribal leaders became tools in the hands of the outsiders, used to help the outsiders achieve their own selfish goals. The natives are under a terrible threat, thought Rondon. It is a disgrace. Rondon convinced the Brazilian government it had to do something. The government set up the National Service for Protection of the Indians. The aim of the service was to introduce the natives to the modern world slowly and peacefully. Rondon became the head of the service and remained there until 1940. During 1913 and 1914, Rondon led what was to become his most famous expedition. This was an expedition with former United States President Theodore Roosevelt to explore the Madeira River, the River of Doubt. By this time, Rondon's adventures were legendary, but many knew that they meant quite a lot of hardship and suffering. Only the brave needed to apply to go on an expedition with Rondon. In fact, Rondon had to pay his men 7 times what anyone else would. The expedition took 2 months to reach the river. Along the way, they had abandoned their boats, which were too heavy. One of the organizers didn't bring enough meat for their food, so they arrived hungry and boatless to the river. They bought boats from a local Indian tribe and finally set off. They would not have survived without Rondon. During the expedition, he showed his heroic qualities. In conditions that got worse and worse, he held the group together. He talked with local tribes to ensure they were allowed safe passage. After several months, the expedition concluded safely. Though he got on well with the former president, Rondon wasn't always complimentary of Roosevelt. "I never saw a man who talked so much," he later wrote. After the expedition with Roosevelt, Rondon continued his work. He was awarded the rank of Marshal on his 90th birthday in 1955. He also received many honors from foreign governments before he died in 1958. In 1982, the state of Rondonia was created to commemorate him. Rondon was perhaps the greatest of the South American explorers and adventurers. There are still some unexplored areas of the map, and the natives continue to face the threat of modern society, especially through the destruction of the rainforest. Here, Rondon's work continues in the hands of others.
Discuss. What is the main idea in Candido Rondon? What evidence does the author use to support this idea? Use quotations to support your answer.